Today is May 16th, and something rare, something almost mythic, is unfolding beneath the surface of your reality. This is not just another ordinary day passing through time unnoticed. This is a moment where the invisible becomes active, where something long dormant begins to stir again. A powerful alignment is taking shape. Mars conjunct Chiron, and with it, a doorway has opened, not outside of you, but within you. It does not ask whether you are ready. It simply begins to pull, to awaken, to call forward what you thought had already faded into memory. Before we go any further, pause for a second. Like this video, subscribe, and in the comments write, "I am ready to receive what is returning to me." Because what you are experiencing right now is not accidental. You were led here. You may have already felt the shift, an unexpected emotional wave, a memory surfacing without invitation, a quiet but undeniable pull towards someone you believed was part of your past. This is not weakness, and it is not regression. This is activation. The love you tried to bury, the connection you tried to understand logically, the bond that never truly dissolved is moving again, re-entering your energetic field, not as it once was, but as something transformed, something aligned with who you have become. And now the question is no longer whether it will return, but whether you are ready to meet it as the version of yourself that exists today. Before we go deeper, I want to share something I created for those who are ready to transform the way they think, feel, and energetically connect with money. My new audiobook, Inner Wealth Rising, helps you upgrade your financial identity through emotional alignment and energetic clarity, not pressure or hustle. Most people don't realize their money limitations come from old patterns and nervous system stories, not lack of effort. This audiobook guides you to release scarcity and step into a sustainable wealth frequency. The link is in the description and pinned comment. Explore it and begin the shift if it resonates. There is a place within you that you rarely allow yourself to fully acknowledge, a quiet inner chamber where a certain name, a certain feeling still echoes through time. It is the space where everything paused, where something meaningful slipped away, leaving behind an imprint that logic could never erase. You told yourself that you moved forward, that you understood why it ended, that it was necessary, perhaps even inevitable. Yet beneath all of that reasoning, there has always been a deeper knowing that something remained unfinished. This connection was never ordinary. It was never meant to simply come and go without consequence. It acted as a mirror, revealing parts of you that had long been hidden, forcing you into a confrontation with your own emotional depth. Chiron, the wounded healer, emerges now not to reopen pain for the sake of suffering, but because the wound has reached a point where it is ready to transform. Mars brings movement, intensity, and courage, activating what has been still for too long, creating a pressure that cannot be ignored. You may feel torn, caught between protecting yourself and leaning into something that feels strangely familiar. This is not confusion without purpose. This is design, precise and intentional, guiding you toward a deeper level of understanding. You convinced yourself that it was over, that whatever existed between you and this person had already completed its cycle. Perhaps there was silence that stretched on for too long, distance that created emotional separation, or an ending that felt too final to question. Yet something is changing now, something subtle at first, but impossible to ignore as it builds. You may notice signs of movement, unexpected messages, chance encounters that feel too perfectly timed, dreams that carry a vividness almost indistinguishable from reality. Their presence may enter your awareness in ways that feel unexplainable, as if their energy is reaching you before any physical action takes place. This is not imagination creating illusions. This is energetic re-entry, a shift that occurs before anything becomes visible in the physical world. When Mars aligns with Chiron, it does not allow things to remain buried. It initiates motion, pushing what has been unresolved into the light, bringing forward not just a person, but a possibility, a version of your life that once stood within reach, but was never fully realized. Without consciously deciding to, you have changed in ways that are undeniable. You are no longer the version of yourself that once sought validation through this connection or depended on it for a sense of completeness. There is a quiet strength within you now, a grounded presence that does not need to prove itself or chase after what it desires. The journey you have been through, the emotional processing, the moments of doubt, the inner rebuilding, has shaped you into someone who carries a different frequency. You are no longer projecting longing or absence. Instead, you radiate stability and self-awareness. This shift is the reason the return is even possible now, because what you are attracting is no longer based on need, but on alignment. The dynamic has changed because you have changed, and that transformation alters everything about how this connection can exist moving forward. This alignment is not random, nor is it something that occurs without purpose. Mars conjunct Chiron creates a rare energetic opening, a portal that exists both within you and around you, where different timelines begin to intersect. In this space, the past and present are no longer separate. They converge into a single moment where choice becomes powerful. You are standing at that threshold now, aware on some level that something significant is unfolding. One path leads back into the familiar narrative of loss and unanswered questions, while another offers a completely different experience, one where healing is embodied and clarity replaces confusion. This portal does not force you into a specific direction, but it presents an opportunity to step into a version of reality that reflects who you are now rather than who you were then. The decision is subtle, often internal, but it carries the power to reshape your experience entirely. You have likely noticed patterns forming around you, small but persistent signals that seem too precise to dismiss as coincidence. Repeating numbers, familiar songs appearing at just the right moment, their name or memory surfacing in unexpected ways. These are not random occurrences. The universe communicates through alignment and timing, using subtle cues to guide your awareness toward what matters. Even if part of you has tried to rationalize these experiences, there is another part that recognizes their significance. These signs are not meant to confuse you. They are meant to awaken your attention, to bring your focus back to something that is re-entering your life for a reason. The more you notice them, the clearer the message becomes, gently but persistently reminding you that something meaningful is unfolding. As this energy builds, it is natural for resistance to arise within you. You remember what happened before, the emotional weight, the uncertainty, the way it affected you, and you have created boundaries to protect yourself from experiencing that again. Now something is asking you to soften, to remain open, rather than retreating into those defenses. This creates tension, a push and pull between caution and curiosity. However, this moment is not about returning to the past in the same way. It is about moving forward with awareness. The version of you who experienced that pain has evolved, gained insight, and developed a deeper understanding of yourself. That growth changes how you engage with what is returning, allowing you to approach it differently, with clarity rather than confusion. This connection was never designed to be simple or effortless. Its purpose was always deeper, intended to activate something within you that could not have been accessed otherwise. It brought intensity because it was meant to challenge you, to push you into growth, to reveal aspects of yourself that may have remained hidden without that experience. The impact it left was not accidental. It was part of a larger process of transformation. Now, as it begins to re-emerge, the lesson is no longer about enduring or surviving the experience, but about integrating what you have learned. It is about recognizing the role this connection has played in your evolution and understanding how it fits into the person you have become. Just as you have changed, so have they. Time, distance, and whatever occurred between you have influenced their growth in ways you may not fully see yet. The separation was not empty. It was a period of transformation for both of you, creating shifts that are now beginning to align. Whether they are consciously aware of it or not, something is drawing them back toward you. A pull that operates beyond logic or surface-level intention. This is not about revisiting the past out of habit, but about responding to an unfinished energetic thread that has reached a point where it can no longer remain unresolved. The connection is moving again because both sides have evolved enough to meet it from a different place. You are standing in a moment that feels suspended between what has been and what is about to unfold. A space filled with quiet anticipation and an awareness that something is approaching. There is a subtle tension in the air, not rooted in fear, but in the recognition that change is near, that a shift is already in motion even if it has not fully revealed itself yet. You may sense that a message, an encounter, or a realization is forming just beyond your current awareness, waiting for the right moment to emerge. This is the threshold, the point where everything begins to move from possibility into reality. And as you stand here, grounded in who you are now, the only thing that truly matters is your presence within this moment. Because whatever arrives next will meet you exactly as you are. The shift that has been building beneath the surface begins to crystallize into something tangible, something you can no longer dismiss as intuition alone. This is the moment where energy starts translating into form, where what you have been sensing internally begins to echo in your external world. It may arrive quietly, almost subtly at first, a message appearing at an unexpected time, a sudden encounter that feels orchestrated beyond coincidence, or even a realization that lands with undeniable clarity. What makes this moment different is not just the action itself, but the way it feels. There is a weight to it, a significance that goes beyond the surface interaction, as if something larger is moving through both of you at once. You are not meeting them from the same emotional space as before. There is awareness now, a grounded presence that allows you to observe as much as you feel. This moment is not asking you to react impulsively, but to remain conscious, to recognize that what is happening is part of a larger unfolding rather than a random return. As contact or awareness deepens, emotions that were once buried begin to rise again, but not in the chaotic, overwhelming way they once did. This time, they emerge with a different texture, a layered depth that feels both familiar and strangely new, as if the same emotional current is now flowing through a more expanded version of you. You may feel warmth that spreads quietly through your chest, followed by hesitation that asks you to slow down and observe. There is a sense of recognition that doesn't fully settle into comfort because it is intertwined with an awareness of everything that has already happened. This creates a complex emotional landscape where familiarity and uncertainty coexist, where the heart remembers while the mind stays alert. What you are experiencing is not a collapse back into the past, but the resurfacing of energy that was never fully resolved, now returning at a time when you have the capacity to hold it with more stability, more awareness, and more control over how deeply you allow it to affect you. The intensity of this emotional surge may catch you off guard, especially if you believed that you had already processed and moved beyond it. It may arrive in waves, sometimes subtle and sometimes unexpectedly strong, carrying memories, sensations, and reflections that feel almost alive again. But this intensity is not here to destabilize you. It carries information, insight, and clarity if you are willing to observe it rather than resist it. It reveals what still holds meaning within you, what has not lost its emotional significance, and what still has the potential to evolve into something different. At the same time, it may also reveal where your boundaries have strengthened, where your perspective has shifted, and where you are no longer willing to engage in the same way as before. This dual awareness is important because it allows you to feel deeply without losing your center. There may be moments where you question yourself, wondering why these emotions are returning at all, especially after the distance you have traveled internally. But the return of these feelings does not mean you are back at the beginning. It means you are now equipped to understand them at a deeper level. Instead of reacting immediately, instead of attaching these emotions to expectations or outcomes, you are being invited to witness them, to let them exist without forcing them into a narrative. In doing so, you create a space where clarity can naturally emerge, where emotion becomes a guide rather than a source of confusion. This is where the transformation lies, not in suppressing what you feel or allowing it to overwhelm you, but in holding it with awareness, allowing it to reveal its meaning without dictating your actions. There comes a moment, often quiet and unspoken, where something aligns between you and them in a way that cannot be explained through logic or language. It is not found in the words exchanged or the actions taken, but in an underlying energetic resonance that becomes undeniable once you feel it. This recognition does not arrive dramatically. It settles in gradually, like a realization that has been waiting beneath the surface for the right moment to be acknowledged. You may feel it as a subtle shift within yourself, a sense of knowing that does not require confirmation, a calm awareness that despite everything that has happened, there is still something present between you that has not disappeared. This recognition can be both grounding and unsettling at the same time, because it does not fit neatly into the narrative you may have created about the past. It challenges the idea that everything ended completely, while also making it clear that what exists now is not the same as what existed before. There is a maturity in this connection now, shaped by time, distance, and the individual growth that has taken place on both sides. When you feel this recognition, you are not just seeing the person as they once were. You are sensing the evolution of who they have become, just as you are aware of your own transformation. This creates a space where the connection can be experienced differently, without the weight of old expectations or the need to recreate what once was. What makes this moment significant is not that it pulls you backward, but that it anchors you firmly in the present. It allows you to see the connection clearly, without distortion, without idealization, and without fear controlling your perception. You begin to understand that what you are recognizing is not just the person, but the journey itself, the way it has unfolded, and the way it has shaped both of you. This understanding removes the urgency to define or control the connection, replacing it with a quiet acceptance of what is. And within that acceptance, something new becomes possible. Not because you are trying to force it into existence, but because you are allowing it to reveal itself naturally. As this connection begins to take form again in your reality, you may notice that it brings with it a series of subtle tests, moments that quietly challenge whether you will respond from the version of yourself that existed in the past or from the awareness you have cultivated since then. These tests do not appear as obvious obstacles or dramatic confrontations. Instead, they are woven into the smallest details of interaction. They show up in the way you interpret a delayed response, in how you process a certain tone or choice of words, in whether you allow your mind to fill in gaps with old assumptions or remain present with what is actually being expressed. It is in these seemingly insignificant moments that the real transformation takes place. You may feel the pull of old patterns attempting to resurface, the instinct to react quickly, to protect yourself, or to anticipate outcomes based on what has already happened. These impulses are not mistakes. They are echoes of your past experiences, reminders of how you once navigated this connection. But now, you have the ability to pause, to create space between stimulus and response, to observe what you are feeling before deciding how to act. This pause is where your power lies, because it allows you to choose consciously rather than reacting automatically. It is in this space that you redefine the dynamic, not by controlling the other person or the situation, but by changing the way you engage with it. Each of these tests offers you an opportunity to align with your current level of awareness, to act in a way that reflects who you are now rather than who you were before. The situation itself may feel familiar, but your response does not have to follow the same path. You can choose clarity over assumption, presence over projection, and understanding over fear. This is what determines whether the connection evolves into something new or repeats the same patterns that once defined it. The transformation is not dependent on external circumstances, but on your internal alignment, on your ability to remain grounded in your awareness even when emotions are present. And as you continue to navigate these moments with intention, you begin to see that the true shift is not in what is happening around you, but in how you are showing up within it. What is happening now is not just a reconnection. It is a process of healing that unfolds through interaction, through presence, through the willingness to engage with what once caused pain in a different way. Healing does not always occur in isolation. Sometimes it requires revisiting the space where the wound was created, but doing so with awareness and strength, rather than vulnerability alone. You may notice that conversations feel different, that there is a level of honesty or openness that was not present before, or that certain patterns no longer hold the same power over you. This is not accidental. It is the result of the growth both of you have experienced during the time apart. The connection becomes a mirror again, but this time it reflects not just your wounds, but your progress, your resilience, and your capacity to engage without losing yourself. For this connection to truly transform, something within you must be released, and that something is not the bond itself, but the version of you that once existed inside it. This is where the real work begins, not in trying to control what is happening externally, but in recognizing how much of your internal identity was shaped by what happened before. You carried a version of yourself that learned from pain, that adapted to confusion, that created meaning out of absence, and tried to make sense of what could not be explained at the time. That version of you served a purpose, but it was never meant to be permanent. Now, as this connection re-enters your awareness, you are being asked to loosen your attachment to that identity, to stop defining yourself through the lens of what once hurt you or what once left you uncertain. You may notice how your mind instinctively tries to revisit the past, replaying moments, analyzing details, comparing what is happening now to what once happened then. This is not failure. It is simply the mind attempting to protect you using familiar patterns. It wants to anticipate, to predict, to ensure that nothing catches you off guard again. But these patterns belong to a version of you that no longer fully exists, a version that did not yet have the awareness you now carry. Holding on to that identity limits your ability to experience what is unfolding in a new way, because it filters everything through outdated perceptions. Letting go in this context is not about erasing memory or pretending the past never happened. It is about releasing the authority the past has over your present responses. As you begin to consciously separate who you are now from who you were then, something within you starts to shift. You no longer feel compelled to react in the same ways, to interpret everything through fear or expectation, or to carry the same emotional weight into every interaction. There is a lightness that begins to emerge, not because the connection has become less meaningful, but because you are no longer holding it through the same lens of identity. This creates space, not just externally, but internally, where something new can begin to form. You are no longer trying to fit this experience into an old narrative. Instead, you are allowing a new narrative to unfold naturally, one that reflects your growth, your awareness, and your current sense of self. This release is subtle but powerful. It happens in moments where you choose not to overanalyze, where you allow something to be what it is, without attaching it to what it used to be. It happens when you notice an old reaction rising within you and consciously decide not to follow it, not to give it control over your behavior. Each of these moments reinforces the truth that you are no longer bound by the identity shaped in the past. And as that identity continues to dissolve, you step more fully into who you are now, creating the conditions for this connection to exist in a completely different way than it ever has before. As both of you begin to engage with this connection from a place of growth and awareness, something deeper starts to shift beneath the surface, something that cannot always be seen, but can certainly be felt. It is as though the timeline itself begins to adjust, responding to the changes that have occurred within both of you. Moments that once felt like missed opportunities, conversations that never happened, emotions that remained unspoken, all of these begin to reorganize within your perception, no longer as points of regret, but as parts of a larger sequence that is now finding alignment. This is not about going back and changing what has already occurred, but about integrating it in a way that allows movement forward without resistance. You may feel this realignment as a subtle sense of things falling into place, as if the timing, which once seemed off or delayed, is now beginning to make sense in a way it never did before. There is a recognition that what felt like distance or separation may have been necessary, not as a punishment or loss, but as a period of preparation. Both of you needed that time to evolve independently, to gain the awareness required to meet each other again from a different level of understanding. Without that separation, the connection may have remained stuck in patterns that neither of you could have broken at the time. Now, as you re-engage, you are not picking up where you left off. You are stepping into an entirely new point on the timeline, one that carries the imprint of everything that has happened, but is no longer restricted by it. This shift creates a sense of possibility that did not exist before. The outcome is no longer predetermined by past experiences because those experiences have been integrated rather than ignored. You are no longer trying to recreate what once was, nor are you trying to avoid it entirely. Instead, you are allowing the connection to evolve in a way that reflects who you both are now. This is what makes the realignment so powerful. It does not erase the past, but it transforms your relationship to it. It turns what once felt like obstacles into foundations, what once felt like endings into transitions, and what once felt incomplete into something that now has the potential to reach a different kind of resolution. As this realignment continues, you may notice that things begin to flow with less resistance, that interactions feel more natural, that timing feels more synchronized. This does not mean everything becomes effortless, but it does mean that you are no longer working against the current. There is a sense of alignment that supports forward movement, allowing the connection to develop in a way that feels more stable, more grounded, and more reflective of the growth that has taken place. And within this alignment, you begin to understand that the timeline you are now part of is not a repetition of the past, but a continuation that carries the potential for something entirely new. Where there was once confusion, there is now the potential for clarity to emerge, not all at once, but gradually, through experience and observation. You begin to see the connection for what it truly is, without projecting expectations or fears onto it. This clarity allows you to understand not only the other person, but also yourself within the dynamic, to recognize what aligns with you and what does not. It removes the illusion that once clouded your perception, replacing it with a grounded sense of awareness. This does not mean everything becomes perfect or effortless, but it does mean that you are no longer navigating blindly. You are present, conscious, and capable of making choices that reflect your true intentions. At the core of this entire experience lies a choice, one that may not present itself as a single dramatic moment, but rather as a series of smaller decisions that shape the direction of what unfolds. You are not being pushed into a predetermined outcome. Instead, you are being given the opportunity to decide how you want to engage with what is returning. This choice is not about whether the connection exists, but about what you choose to do with it. You can approach it with awareness, allowing it to evolve naturally, or you can allow old patterns to influence your actions. The difference between these approaches determines whether this becomes a continuation of the past or the beginning of something entirely new. As you move through this process, you begin to recognize something deeper within yourself, a sense of personal power that is not dependent on the outcome of the connection, but on your ability to remain aligned with who you are. This power comes from understanding that you are not at the mercy of external circumstances, but an active participant in shaping your experience. You are no longer defined by what happened before, nor are you limited by what you once believed was possible. This activation is subtle, yet profound, shifting the way you perceive yourself and your role within your own life. It allows you to engage with the connection from a place of strength rather than vulnerability alone. Transformation does not always announce itself loudly. Often it occurs quietly, in the way you think, in the way you feel, in the way you respond to situations that once affected you deeply. As this connection unfolds, you may notice that you are handling things differently, that you are less reactive, more grounded, more aware of your own boundaries and needs. This quiet transformation is a reflection of the work you have done internally, the growth that has taken place beneath the surface. It is not something you need to prove or demonstrate. It is something you embody naturally, and it is this embodiment that changes the dynamic, allowing for a different experience to emerge. As everything continues to unfold, you begin to realize that this experience is not just about reconnecting with someone from your past, but about stepping into a version of your life that reflects your current level of awareness. The connection becomes a pathway, not the destination itself, guiding you toward a deeper understanding of yourself and your capacity for growth. Whether it evolves into something lasting or serves as a final chapter of closure, its purpose is fulfilled through the way it transforms you. And as you stand within this unfolding moment, aware of both the past and the present, you recognize that the true shift is not happening around you, but within you, shaping the direction of everything that comes next. As this journey reaches its most refined point, something within you begins to settle into place with a quiet certainty that no longer seeks external validation. The emotional waves that once felt overwhelming now move through you with greater ease, no longer destabilizing your sense of self. You are not trying to force outcomes, nor are you resisting what unfolds. Instead, you are allowing everything to reveal itself in its own timing. This is integration, the moment where everything you have experienced, the pain, the growth, the separation, the return, begins to merge into a single understanding. You see now that nothing was wasted, that every phase of this connection served a purpose in shaping who you have become. There is a calm awareness in you, a grounded presence that does not need to rush forward or retreat backward. You are here, fully present, fully aware, and that presence changes the way everything aligns around you. What once felt unfinished now begins to transform into something complete, not necessarily because everything resolves in a perfectly defined way, but because you no longer carry the same questions or uncertainties within you. Completion is not always about external closure. It is about internal resolution, the moment when you understand enough to release the need for answers. At the same time, this completion creates space for something new to emerge, a rebirth that is not separate from what came before, but built upon it. You are not starting over. You are continuing forward with a deeper level of awareness. The energy around you reflects this shift, becoming lighter, more aligned, more supportive of your growth. What is meant to remain will do so naturally without force, and what is meant to fall away will do so without resistance. This is the balance between holding on and letting go, a balance you now understand in a way you could not before. At the end of all this, you begin to recognize that the true transformation was never solely about the connection itself, but about the person you have become through it. The return, the activation, the emotional depth of this experience, all of it was guiding you toward this version of yourself, the one who no longer doubts their worth, who no longer seeks answers outside of their own awareness. You are not waiting for destiny to arrive. You are embodying it. The path ahead may still hold unknowns, but they no longer create fear in the same way, because you trust yourself to navigate whatever comes. And as you stand in this awareness, something becomes undeniably clear. What is truly meant for you does not need to be chased, forced, or questioned endlessly. It aligns, it unfolds, and it meets you where you are. If you're ready to deepen the financial and energetic shift you started today, I created something to support you more fully. My audiobook Inner Wealth Rising guides you in releasing old money patterns, reconnecting to your natural abundance frequency, and building the emotional foundation real wealth grows from. If today's message resonated, this may help you expand even further. The link is in the description and pinned comment. Explore it. And if it aligns with your next chapter, let your inner wealth rise.